But the way this works is that every number is assigned a sound. Okay, these are listed right now as digits. I'm sorry, as letters, but it's really sounds. And what that means is that if I see the number 1 and 3, then what that means is that the first number 1, so what happens is that for every digit we have a specific sound associated with it, or as you can see, sometimes two different sounds associated with them. And what that means is that we can take a number and turn it into a word. Because, for instance, if I think of the number 1 and 3, you can see that the number 1 is associated with the sound either T or D, so T or D. And then the number 3 is associated with the sound M. So what I can do is I can do one of two things. I can either just take a word that has the D or T sound and then has the next sound in it, the M sound. So what I had here was the word dime. Okay? So dime starts with a D or the D sound, and the next consonant sound is an M. So this system ignores vowels, and it just says dime. Now, I could also have said time, or I could have said Timmy, right? I could have said Demo, anything I wanted to, as long as it in the order it goes the first consonant sound and the next consonant sound. So you can see I can make a number out of anything. If I use if I created the word Christopher or the word computer, I can go through and I can look for the consonant sound and then use that to create the number. So the word computer starts with a K, or the C sound. It's the K sound. Remember, it's not the letter, it's the sound. So that's com. So it's 7. Then the next one is 3. So 7, 3. And then the next one is P, right? Then the next one is 1, computer. And then that ends with 4. So that would be 7, 3, 9, 1, 4. All right. Now, it's interesting, right? Each number turns into a sound. So if we were playing a game and I said, okay, I'm going to give you the number or the word Fraser, and you turn that into a number, well, you could. You'd say, okay, F is 8, and then there's the R, 8, 4, and then J. Okay, so that would be either, that's a little tricky, but in this case it would be the J sound, so that's the 6, because that's anything that's kind of a soft J or J or J. And then our would be 4. So whatever that turned into, 8, 4, 6, 4. Well, that's great, but when we want to memorize things, we don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. So what we want to do here is create memory objects that we are always going to use to represent that number. And then we can combine things like 13 and 19 very easily without having to think about it. So that's where we sort of build on this, the major technique. Because right now I say, well, you can use the word dime, right? And here's another one. Here I have the word ape, right? Now, ape doesn't start with P, but it has the only sound of P in there. So I can do that and use the word ape as my memory object for 9. Now, remember, we also have something that rhymes with it, like wine or vine. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. You just want to choose one and keep it in there, because what we're going to do is create these basic memory objects. The next step, though, is that you don't have to do it based on sounds if you don't want to. You can do it based on the first letter of the word. So, for instance, let's see. So right here, rather than creating a word like toss, right? T for one or D, and O is the letter, or zero is the sound S. Rather than creating the word toss or something like that, I chose to use a person that it has the first name starting with the letter T, and the next name, the last name starting with the letter S, Tom Sawyer. Okay, or if you're a music fan, Taylor Swift, or you probably have other ones. This is where your experience, your knowledge is going to come into play because the people that I choose for my memory objects are familiar to me, are easy for me, but the ones you choose are going to be the ones that are familiar to you. So, if you have a person that has the first name that starts with the major sound or letter and has a last name that starts with the major sound or letter, that is the ideal thing that you want to do for reasons that we'll talk about later. But just understand that the ideal would be having a person as your memory object. I'll give you a sneak preview. It's because if you have a person as your memory object, then I'm going to show you how you can connect Tom Sawyer with Tiny Tim easily. Okay, so Tom Sawyer, T and S, right? 1 and 0, T, S. Tiny Tim, T, T. So Tiny Tim from the Charles Dickens story Christmas Carol. I can connect Tom Sawyer and Tiny Tim using a specific technique that will enable me to remember the number 1011 or 1110 in the right order, okay? So we're going to learn that in a little bit, but the first step is for you to come up with your basic number objects. If you have to, because you can't come up with something, use something like dime, or this is Dino, the dinosaur from the Flintstones, or here I did, for instance, this was Maleficent, okay? Now, I chose this because this is a person whose name is only one word, right? So in that situation, Maleficent was a good one. I think I did here Rhino, which is not only an animal, but it's also a superhero villain from the Spider-Man comics. But it starts with R, which is my major sound for this technique, okay? So what you want to do, and remember, you have this guide right here to help you. But what you're going to do is you're going to go through each one of these numbers and you're going to create an image, a number object for it. Again, ideal situation is a person, okay? Because that is going to work better for our linking technique, which is going to enable you to quickly and easily connect them. But for right now, it's okay. If you have to create things like dime, which combines the major and minor, or the major sounds, that's fine. Remember, it doesn't matter what vowels you have in here. This is because it has the D and the M sound, it can be translated using this major key into the word dime, which you then have an image for, okay? Now, I suggest that you start with this major method, but I'm also going to introduce here this Dominic method, which you can use as well. It doesn't really matter, and if you want to, you can mix and match, because you're not going to have to decipher these memory objects. You're going to memorize them. You're going to know that, after a little bit, you're going to know Tom Sawyer, that's the one you use for 10 over and over again for the rest of your life. Because once you've done that, then these just become objects that you can combine, and you can easily combine them. So I will show you an example of where I used the Dominic method, and